Imagine that you go in to see a professional for retirement planning, and that professional tells you that if you don't purchase long-term care insurance and you go into a nursing home, your children are required by law to fund all of your long-term care expenses. This is one of many lies, myths, misinformation that's out there about nursing homes and children's responsibility. Luckily, we have with us today Richard Beckner. He is CEO of Faithful Elder Law Solutions, and he is going to help us go through what is true about having to pay for your parents' long-term care needs. Richard, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tabitha. I appreciate the opportunity.
Here's what we're going to cover today. When children can and when they cannot be held responsible for their parents' bills, what Medicaid recovery actually means, forms to avoid when signing on behalf of your parents, and then why early planning truly matters. So, Richard, in your practice, I know you see these questions a lot. Why do you think this topic hits so hard?
It's all about creating anxiety, to be honest. We all have a fear of the unknown. And when you have like you said, an expert that is creating some type of fear, especially when you already have a concern, maybe you have an aging parent that you're worried about their long-term outcomes and future that's always going to be unknown to all of us. That's why this really hits hard. And you combine the unknown with the misinformation, the financial anxiety, just the overall guilt of caring or being worried about an aging parent is why it's so impactful for that salesperson.
So help me break this down. What are some of the really common misinformations, myths, lies that are out there that people get caught up in?
Unfortunately, these myths are used as a fear tactic. It's a way to say, hey, if you don't purchase this long-term care insurance plan, the long-term care facility is going to take your house, or you're personally responsible and liable for this. That's just simply not true. That's where the myths are. There are what's called a fill-all responsibility law that we'll get into a little bit later, but those are largely non-existent. And really, that's the stretching of the truth that creates the myth by a long-term care insurance broker or someone else just trying to create that anxiety and fear.
Okay, so once we actually take out the myths and the mistruths and the misinformation that's out there, can you explain to us really clearly, are children responsible, and are there laws out there that's going to force children to pay for these services?
First and foremost, there are some federal protections that are in place. Federal protections are going to cover you regardless of where you are in the 50 states. But what is most concerning, and this is where you will get somebody kind of stretch the truth a little bit, and what they're saying is, well, there's a law in place. There is a law in place in about 27 states, that kind of give or take, depending on who you ask. And the reason being is because they're rarely enforced or rarely used. West Virginia, for example, does have a filial responsibility statute. It's in Chapter 959, I believe. And I looked at it and did some research. I don't really see where that's been enforced. The bill was actually discussed back in the early 30s. That's how long it's been. It's just simply not something that's really in place at this point. I know Pennsylvania has done something like this, but it's truly just not forced, and I'm not experienced it, nor have I seen it, where you would have a long-term care facility or nursing home saying, hey, adult child, you're responsible for this bill. It's just not, it just doesn't happen.
Okay. So now that we have this law that supposedly exists, kind of does, kind of doesn't, there is an aspect of the law that is involved in a certain way. But again, I feel like this goes back to misinformation, and that's Medicaid recovery, correct?
Yeah. So really, Tabitha, here's where the confusion starts. There is Medicaid recovery, but that's only to the extent a person passes away. It is not, nor does it impact someone that's still living. So an adult child isn't going to be responsible for Medicaid recovery. They would in turn look to an estate. I mean, there are steps you can take to protect yourself, and I would suggest that an elder law attorney or estate planning attorney could help in that regard. But the focus is on the actual estate itself and not while you're still here on earth, so to speak. One thing that we need to cover is what Medicaid recovery is not. And it's not, it doesn't make the adult child liable. It doesn't affect your credit. It certainly doesn't automatically come after your home or automatically kick in just because your parent needs care. It's none of those things. What I've often seen, and I think you've already attested to this, Tabitha, is you have salespeople that they know their prospective clients and they know their prospective audience. And hey, this Richard Beckner, he has elderly parents. He's going to have some fears about that. So I'm going to hit them up to purchase long-term long-term care insurance policy. Fear-based tactics is a very powerful tool, and it's something that's used all the time.
So we've pointed out now that there are a lot of fear-based language that's being used, but you're not in any way saying that there's not legal traps out there and there's not laws that are out there where situations like this could happen, right?
Yeah, that's right. One of the things that I've encountered, and this is in a prior life as an attorney, and currently especially, you have pretty sophisticated approaches. And what I mean by that is you're going to have likely an attorney create some documents that's advantageous or helpful for their clients being somebody that's not you. And because of that, it can be pretty dangerous the way they can do the terms and the terminology. So what I would always advise is look at everything, read it through with a fine-tooth comb. Do not sign something that's just put in front of you to sign. Ponder what the words say. Protect yourself. Get with an attorney before you sign anything. Get with somebody that's been at this. I'm going to advise an attorney because I am one, but somebody that's been doing this before. Maybe it's a hospital administrator or somebody that you might know that's in this space. They could probably guide you a little bit just to make sure that you don't sign some documents that's ultimately going to commit you to something you don't want to commit to. Some of the dangerous terms that you need to be aware of. This is almost like a red flag. You'll see in the document, responsible party, that's red flag. The big thing is guarantor. So when you have a provider, for example, my child, I'm the guarantor on my child's medical debts because she's a minor. So because of that, I have some responsibility there. But you hear what I just said. My child's a minor. They're not an adult. So that's the distinction. And then, of course, there are going to be some personal liability statements and things like that. They may try to fold into a document, so just be aware of that as well. Largely, you just need to learn to be able to protect yourself. So the other thing that you need to be concerned about, there are some hidden risks of joint assets. So oftentimes, I've seen adult parents that will be on an account on behalf of their father, their mother, even their grandparent for that matter. Just be aware of that. Joint property owned, be considerate of the language and what that actually does in terms of sharing your responsibility and your liability to a quote-unquote debt. Joint bank accounts could be problematic. Just get somebody to guide you a little bit, whether that's, again, my preference as an attorney, but get some legal advice or get somebody to help you understand what you're signing. And the same with titling. I mean, I just had a conversation with a client today and was talking with them about how they needed to word their trust in such a way that they could set up a title that's clear and clean and avoids probate. So there are ways to do this, and there are ways to go about doing this as long as you are just aware that there are potential hidden risks on sharing joint assets. So really, just to recap, most adult children are not going to be on the hook or financially responsible for their parents, especially if their parent qualifies for Medicaid. That's a huge green check for the adult child. If how the assets were used, so were their parents' own assets used? Most often that's the case. Talked about a guarantor form. You do not want to sign a guarantor form on behalf of your adult parent because that could potentially open you up to some responsibility. And we already talked about shared property. You need to be mindful of that. I think if we've driven home the point so far, you just have to be really careful, seek advice. This whole process is not fearful and it's not something that should really be that scary.
We've spent a lot of time now explaining that you should not plan for future care based on fear, but there's a lot of really good reasons we should plan for care. And this is what we want to talk about now is we should be proactive about planning. Number one, most important, is preserving your dignity. You should talk to your children and you should talk to your loved ones and attorneys and retirement specialists so that you're able to preserve your dignity. You can make the decisions for your life and your care based upon your values and how you want to be treated as you age. Plus, it also creates peace of mind for your family. When crisis hits your family, the last thing that anyone needs is mom never told us what she wanted. We don't know how to plan. We don't know where her assets are, or even worse, no one has powers of attorney. No one has the legal documents in place. You don't want those things to happen. So planning for those saves a lot of family strife. And you get to protect your independence. You get to be able to set the boundaries. This is the type of care that I want. This is how I want my money being spent. And what I see as something that is incredibly important is setting out the guidelines for the type of care that you want your children and loved ones to provide for you. Some people want their children heavily involved in their care. Some people want their children just kind of supervising the care. In my experience, there's really nothing worse than leaving children or leaving loved ones having to guess about the type of care that you wanted and just wondering, did I make the right decisions for my loved ones, or would they have preferred something else?
One of the things that I consistently advise my prospective clients and my existing clients is the importance of planning ahead. The most important things that I advise is to plan while you're still with it, as they say. So I like to think that I'm pretty competent right now, and I'm pretty mentally competent, and I certainly am, but I know that there may come a day when I cannot simply make decisions for myself. So it's imperative to go ahead and make plans now on what you want, because you have complete control. And that's one of the things I tell my clients is, don't you want to control things? And you can completely control everything while you're still on earth and while you're still here, and you control what happens to you when you're no longer here. So it's very, very important to plan ahead.
So we want to leave you with this today. Planning is love. It's not an obligation. Talk to your loved ones because you care about what happens next, not because you're afraid they're going to be stuck with the bill. And really, planning should be empowering. When you're finished planning, you should feel so good. You should be like, I was worried about that, or I thought it'd be really complicated, but I feel good now. I feel safe. That's the feeling you want to go with, not fear of what responsibilities are going to be left behind. We want you to move forward with confidence and happiness and strength that it's taken care of and planned out the way you want. Fear should never be a factor in what you're planning. And remember, you're not alone. There are a lot of really wonderful professionals that are in this world that want to plan with you because they want you to feel empowered. Like Richard, can you explain a little bit of the difference between an elder law attorney professional and just a regular attorney, and the importance of going to an elder law attorney for this?
So thank you, Tabitha. Hopefully, if you do contact an attorney, there are some questions you should likely pose to that attorney. And one is, do you provide estate planning? An offshoot of estate planning, or some people label it as one and the same, it's not, is elder law. So the difference and the distinction is, estate planning is your standard wills. Elder law is more nuanced and a lot more robust at the same time, if that makes sense. You want to find an attorney that can write in a will for you and on your behalf to express your wishes when you're no longer here. You need a power of attorney to express your wishes while you are here. Powers of attorney are existing while you're here on earth. They die when you pass. They're no longer effective. Those are the types of conversations you need to have with an attorney that can really explain the difference and explain what makes sense to you.
We do provide a couple free resources that are available. Linked in the comments, we have our free long-term care planning guide, which is a tool that we created to help people really understand their long-term care options, what Medicare covers, what it doesn't cover, the different ways of paying for long-term care. And then there's some helpful guides in there to help you start the conversation with your loved ones about the type of care that you want. We also have a free Facebook group you can join. It is WV Medicare Questions. And then you can contact us at any point for a free planning session. You can call us at 681-340-1377. And Richard, how can people get a hold of you?
What I would suggest is you can call me or email me. The email is probably the best way. I live on my email. It's rbeckner. That's Beckner. So RBECKNER at faithful, like it's spelled ELS.com. Or you can call me at 859-419-7311.
Richard, thank you so much for this. I really think we cleared up a lot of fear, and hopefully people moving forward feel empowered and inspired to have some conversations with their family and make some really good planning choices out of love, not fear. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.